Hey everybody, I'm back with a new tutorial for you. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these cool little pumpkin call to action buttons. You can link them to any hyperlink you want, and you don't need any extra plugins, just some HTML and CSS, and I am going to show you how to do it all right now. Before we get into that, I just do want to quickly say that I am sorry I haven't been as active lately. I've just been dealing with some life stuff and also hard at work behind the scenes on creating more You Can Code It content for you all. I mentioned this in previous videos, but I'm also working on launching a website. It'll kind of be a companion to my YouTube channel and vice versa. Real quick sneak peek, I just finished writing this tutorial on how to create a custom login page without a plugin. You can see that there's a nice table of contents, a lot of info, documentation, screenshots, and code snippets for you to copy. So this is kind of just an example of what you can kind of expect from my website when it's live, and I hope to have that going soon. Anyway, back to the tutorial for the pumpkin call to action. Let's go. Okay, so I just have a tab open with my dashboard, and then in another tab I have my GitHub repository open, and I set this up. This has everything you need to follow along with the tutorial, all the code and everything. Link is in the description, of course, so go ahead and open that up. The first thing you're going to want to do while you're here is you see the HTML section. You're going to want to copy this HTML block here. You'll notice there's also a little click to copy button in the upper right corner. So if you click that, it'll copy this for you automatically. So once you have the HTML copied, you're going to want to figure out where to put it on your website. So you can paste this anywhere you want because it's HTML. It's super flexible, and wherever you paste the HTML is going to be where the button appears. So you can paste it in any page builder like Beaver Builder, Elementor. You can do it in the classic editor, Gutenberg, pretty much anywhere. So I have a few examples here I'm going to show you. So let's say you're using the classic editor. You're going to want to make sure you're on the text tab. So you see right here you have visual and then text. You're going to want to make sure you're on the text tab, and then wherever you want your button to appear on the page, you're going to put your cursor there and go ahead and paste the HTML that you just copied. And then going back, let's say you have an Elementor page. So you're going to find where you want to put it on your Elementor page, and you're going to search for the HTML element. And then you're going to drag and drop it wherever you want the button to be on your page. And then, I'm sure you guessed it, but in this HTML section here, on the left-hand side, you're going to go ahead and paste the HTML you just copied. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be using the Gutenberg block editor. And this is going to kind of mimic where I'm going to actually be using this button in, real world. So we have a Halloween sale coming up for our team, and we're going to have a blog post created for it, talking about our sale. And in the blog post, we're going to have, this little pumpkin call to action button, and it's going to link to the sales page where they can buy, our services that are on sale. So what I'm going to do is I want my little button to appear between these two paragraphs. So in the block editor, I am just going to add an HTML block. And then, just like the previous examples, I am just going to paste in the HTML. So, once you have your HTML pasted in wherever you want your button, there's two things we're going to want to change. The first thing is we're going to want to change on the first line, the href, and this is the link that the button goes to when you click it. So, in the demo, in my tutorial here, I am just going to have it linked to, I don't know, let's say Google. Doesn't really matter. You're going to want to go ahead and put in whatever page you want to go to when the button's clicked. So maybe it's a sales page, maybe it's a contact page, wherever you want. Make sure you put it between the quotes, right? And then the second thing you're going to want to change is on the fourth line right here, you'll see sign up now. So this is the actual text that appears on the button itself, and it's set up to display with, 2 to 3 short words, so don't put anything too long here, or you might have to change the styling a bit. But, something like click here, or, claim offer, or, learn more. I'm going to go ahead and put order now in my example. Go ahead and put whatever you want. Again, just try to keep it relatively short, 2 to 3 short words. And then once you have your link between the quotes and the button text, go ahead and save whatever page you added this to. And then go ahead and view the front end of the page. Don't worry, don't panic. It's okay not to see the button right now. You should only see just the button text, just like I have here. If you see that, you are good to go. So now what you're going to want to do is on the front end of the page you just added your button to, in the WordPress admin bar up here, you're going to want to go click Customize. And then you're going to want to go to Additional CSS. Now we're going to add the CSS to make the button come to life. And you can add this to your child theme style.css sheet. For a holiday button like this, it is perfectly fine to add it here though. So I'm going to go back to my GitHub repository, and you'll see just below the HTML we copied, there's a CSS section. And using the little click to copy button in the corner, I'm going to click that to copy all the CSS. And then I'm going to go back here, and you guessed what's coming. We are going to paste the CSS in here. Now you'll see just before your eyes, like magic, the button appears. If your button did not appear when you pasted the CSS, double check your HTML, maybe clear your cache, just double check what you did. Now at this point, you do have a fully functioning button, and you could stop right here if you're happy with it, but I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to show you how to add the face that I showed in the beginning of the video, and I'm also going to show you some other customization options and tips and tricks. So I'm going to go back to my GitHub repository, and let's scroll down below the CSS section that we just copied, and you should see the face image. You're going to want to right click this image, save image as, and save it to your computer. And then just below that, you're going to see the face CSS, and let's use the click to copy button to copy that. And let's go back to our website, and just below the CSS we previously added, let's hit enter a couple times. Make sure you are not inside of that closing bracket. Make sure you're outside of it, just like you see on my screen. And let's go ahead and paste in that face CSS that we just copied. Perfect. It's okay not to see the face right now. That's normal. So what we're going to do is let's just go ahead and click publish just to kind of save our work. And then you should have a tab open to your dashboard still. If you don't already have a tab open, go ahead and in a new tab, go back to your site dashboard, leaving this one open. And I am just going to navigate to my media library. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to add new and upload the face image that you just downloaded from GitHub. I already have mine here, so I'm not going to upload it. But once you have it uploaded, you'll see the file URL. Go ahead and click the copy URL to clipboard button. So now we can safely go back to our previous tab here. And you'll notice right here it says pumpkin face. Just below that, you'll see the background image, and the URL field is empty. So I'm sure you see where this is headed, but we're going to want to go ahead and paste in that face URL that we just copied. Make sure you put your cursor between the two single quotes, so it's between them, and then you're going to go ahead and paste it in. And if you did that correctly, you should see your face should appear, and now when you hover over it, it also lights up. So there you have it. Again, right now you could stop if you're happy with it, but I'm going to show you some other customization options. Even if you don't plan on, customizing it or using this, this is still teaching you and showing you some of the things you can do with just some relatively simple HTML and CSS. So let's continue. So I'm just going to scroll up to the top of the CSS, and I'm going to start from the top and go to the bottom, and I'm just going to go over a few things that you can customize and just overall kind of explain how some of this is working, just so you get a little bit of an idea, and hopefully it helps you in the future. So this first declaration block, the pumpkin button, is the container that holds all the pumpkin button elements. And this is mostly used just for the positioning of things. So you can see how the button is in the center by default. Let's say you wanted it to go to the left. So you see the margin right here? The very last auto, if we were to replace that with a 0, we'll see it goes to the left. If we undo that and replace the first auto, it's going to go to the right. Now, depending on your page layout, you might want it to go to the left. If we scroll down a little bit more, we'll see the pumpkin front shape. And I'm just going to quickly change the background color to black, just so you can visibly see what this element looks like. So you can see that this part right here is the majority of the pumpkin. It's that orange circle part here. And I'm going to go ahead and undo that. And you can see the little bit of orange coming out the sides is the pumpkin back shape just below it. So if I go ahead and remove the front, just so you can see the back, let me just remove it temporarily. You'll see that this is the back, and it's set with a gradient. And that's kind of what gives it the multiple tones. And how this is constructed is we have the front circle shape on the top, and then we have the back layered behind it, and when you put them together, you get this little pumpkin. I wouldn't change anything with either of these. Now, scrolling down below that, you'll see the pumpkin stem, and that, of course, as you guessed it, is a little green pumpkin stem. This you could play around with a little bit. So you'll notice towards the bottom here, the transform rotate. It's set to 22 degrees right now. If we were to make that, let's say, 12 degrees, you'll see the stem angles a little bit to the left. If we were to make it, let's say, 2 degrees, you can see it angles even more. Now, let's say you wanted to change the color from green to maybe brown. So you'll see right here, border left, you'll see this color code right here. You can change this color code to any color you want. Let's just say black, for example, and you have a black stem. Or let's say brown, and you have not a great brown, but you have a brown. But you get the idea. You can change the color of the stem if you want. You can also play around with the sizing by changing the 45 pixels here. So if I were to do like 25, you see it gets kind of skinnier, and you can kind of play around with that pretty safely. So scrolling down, we see the button bar with text, and as it sounds like, it is the black bar with the text. You can change the background color if you wanted. Right now it's set to black. You can use, again, any color code you want. You can also just put in maybe purple. I actually kind of like that. That was kind of a happy accident. That's kind of Halloween colors. So I'm actually just going to leave that for the rest of the tutorial. You can also adjust the font size if you need to. Maybe make it a tiny bit smaller. If you adjust it too much, you might need to adjust the padding as well. But I'm going to keep mine at 22 pixels. And then scrolling down to our last declaration, we have the pumpkin face, and this is where we added our little face overlay. And essentially, this is just layered to appear over the pumpkin. And how the glow is working is you see at the very end here, we have the hover class applied to the pumpkin face. So essentially what's happening is when you hover over the pumpkin, it's triggering this declaration, And what's happening in here is we have a CSS filter set to adjust the brightness. So what's happening is when you hover over it, it's just making the face image that we added brighter. So that's what's happening here. Now, if I change this from 12 to, let's say, 50, it'll become pure white because it's so bright. 12 is a pretty good number. You could play around a little bit. Like if we made it 20, for example, you'll see it's almost all white. If we were to make it 5, you'll see it's kind of weird. So 12 is a pretty good number. You kind of get that orange candle glow. And that's how that's working. I will give you one last tip. Let's say, for example, you wanted to hide the face and only show it on hover. What we could do is, it's actually quite easy to do, is just below the transition duration right here, inside the closing bracket, go ahead and hit enter, and you're going to put opacity 0 and then a semicolon. Make sure it's inside the closing bracket, so it should look just like this. And then what you're going to want to do is, in the hover declaration, just below the filter brightness, make a new line and do opacity and set it to 1. And then end it with a semicolon. And again, make sure you're inside the closing bracket just like that. So now if we hover over it, you'll see the face actually appears when you hover over it. Now, you'll notice that when you hover over it, it comes in really fast. It comes in instantly. So what we can do to smooth that out a little bit is, again, just below the opacity 1 line, I'm going to go on a new line, and I'm going to do transition, opacity. I'm going to set it to 1 second, really long, just so you can kind of see. And then I'll end it with a semicolon. Now you'll notice that when you hover over, it fades in for a duration of 1 second. It really smooths things out when it comes in. So I'm going to go ahead and change that 1 second to 0.4. I think that's pretty good. Now, I actually like it showing the face, so I'm just going to get rid of what I just added there and have the face show. But those are just some little tips and tricks and some information. I really hope you learned something. I really hope this was helpful. And even if you don't use the button, I hope you got something out of this. Thanks, and see you next time.